Okay, so now let's study the fist and let's do it from a forward facing shot. So this should be pretty quick because you can actually get this. It should seem almost simplistic after doing some of these other hand poses as well. So again, the relationship of the knuckles, the larger middle knuckle there. I would say with a shot like this, the main thing is, maybe try not to draw them all straight down like this. So you want to focus on little bits of shift here, like this, so they compress inward. You're going to get a little bit of the skin kind of bumping around right there. And then the thumb is going to come up, shift, and around like this. I think the other helpful thing to remember is that the thumb generally will fall in a pose like this to the middle of the middle finger. So if you start to draw the middle finger like this, that thumb will end up somewhere in the middle or roundabout right by there. You can use that as a bit of a guide. So we'll start with that larger middle knuckle like this, and then we'll have these kind of slope under and then back up to the next knuckle, and under and back up. And what I'll generally do too whenever I draw a hand pose like this, if I do each one of these with this same repetitive kind of behavior, it looks, just too repetitive. So what I'll do is generally when I get to the pinky, I'll maybe round over the pinky knuckle or something like that. Just again, trying to think of ways to make it not look too mechanical and too repetitive. So now we've got the knuckles here, and again, we don't want these to line up entirely. Probably do the pointer finger a little bit higher like this, and have these go back like this, and then have these do the plane change, pointing back away from the viewer like this, and get this thumb into place. So this is another tricky thing whenever you're trying to make the thumb look like it comes from obviously the recessed space, so from the back, and come up and around the rest of the fingers. That's always a tricky thing to get right. And it's really, I think that the best way to do it is where you get just the right overlap and bend to the skin as it goes around. So you kind of have to play around with these shapes. Like that doesn't look like the right wrinkle, but you'll get probably one wrinkle there, another one back here, and then it kind of dissipates or whatever falls behind there. And then it's tricky, but you got to get just the right positioning of the knuckle. So I think the knuckle would actually be lower to the thumb, like down this way. So something like that. So I'm going to erase these original lines back a little more. And get this angle in here. So let's try something like that. And you might get a little bit of the palm back here, depending on the angle of the rest of the arm there. And some of the thumbnail right there. Again, great way to immediately convey the depth. And the wrinkles from the thumb knuckle right there. Okay, so let's say it's enough of our rough sketch in place. We've got enough information there to work with. And let's try to make this look a little more impressive now. And then also, if I had to, really analyze it, the thumb still looks a bit clunky. So to me, that's always the trickiest part of getting a pose like this to look right. Past that, it's probably that fanning of the knuckles and making sure that they all are a little bit more independent from one another. But it's really that thumb that will give me the most trouble from this type of pose. Okay, so as I clean this up, I want to bring this knuckle over through here. I want to connect it across, but I want to try to make these look a little bit different from one another. So, I might have one have a slightly different angle in the way that it bends inward or tapers inward into this, inner part of the skin. I have this one a little more flattened over, and then I might take that pinky knuckle and just really round it over quite a bit. Again, just trying to envision a little bit of, more of an organic feel as I do this. And I might make, one knuckle a lot more defined, the heavier shadow, and then just slightly hint towards the other knuckles. So again, with the skin here, I might have it come over, down this way, and then another shape coming out more to add a little more skin or flesh right there. And so another tricky part, I think, with this type of pose is it's real easy to want to make these knuckles appear just overly angular. And again, for a stylized representation, that might be fine. But if we want it to look, again, more soft and more well-drawn, more organic, or whatever you want to call it, it's going to need to be a little bit more of a smooth transition. But you can see as I use these smooth lines bending back into space, it doesn't have that real definitive edge. It doesn't convey that as well. So I have to make sure that with my rendering I can get that across. You can also use a shape kind of like this. I'll probably use more of a downward bend for the pinky, but then for the more pronounced knuckles, I'll do this kind of more elaborate kind of shape of shadow effect kind of right there. And again, they're a little too aligned, so I got to be careful of that. I'll probably bring the pointer finger up quite a bit higher, something like this. And I'll even take this opportunity to like draw the pointer finger a little bit more on its own angle. So maybe just a little bit more out towards camera. I'll try to do that by raising this first overlap of skin, like kind of like this, like it's coming out towards the viewer a little bit more. I can also reinforce that with the shape of shadow, or the shadow that it casts onto the other hand, or other finger, I should say. So this is more stylized when I start to do this, I guess, because this isn't generally what I see when I look at a realistic hand. But if you really want to give it more shape and more feel, you can get in here and start doing more with the wrinkles and the shading and the effect, and take it as far as you like. And then for this part, I want these wrinkles to kind of come back this way. I want to get this knuckle more pronounced right here. And then for the thumb here, again, I told you this is the area I probably struggle with the most. I think one of the things that might help is I think the thumbnail needs to be quite a bit larger, my comparison, so I'm going to increase the size of that. And I want to change the shape of the thumb a bit. It looks a bit odd. So I'm going to draw that through here a bit. And I want to get some of these wrinkles into place. And again, I want there to be good variation in the way that I draw the wrinkles. So not only the distance in between the lines, I want a little bit of various line weight as I do this to hopefully give it some depth. So I was kind of playing around with that. And likewise here, I want to get some of those wrinkles into place. And you can actually use those wrinkles to direct the plane change or the perspective as well. So if they're pointing downward, like I got them on the pinky here, then it kind of gives the illusion that the pinky is tucked down and inward more, versus where if they're pointing slightly upward, then now those fingers, the knuckles would appear to be coming out towards camera just a little bit more. At least that's the way I'm trying to convey it when I illustrate like that. So hopefully that translates well. Okay, so let's say we want to do something like that. Now I'm going to kind of cheat just a little bit because I'm just going to go ahead and add some lines like I like to do right here, because it helps to, again, convey that plane change rather quickly. So just like that, we've got that in there, and then we could take the back palm area that you're seeing kind of peeking around, and we could shade that back a bit or do whatever we need to make that look more in the backdrop of what's going on here. Maybe a little bit of shading or something to push that back. And likewise, we can increase the line weight to the other fingers and the thumb to help push these forward by comparison. So yeah, so hopefully that gives the look that that I'm after. And obviously with stylization, you could take this as far as you want, but I would say probably about right there. And then I could even do a little bit of line weight off the plane change of the thumb here. I don't know if that does much for it, but we could try it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the next pose and see what we come up with.